Well, hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson, and it's my pleasure to be here with you guys today on this beautiful Wednesday morning here on the Gold Coast of Australia. Today, I am joined by the amazing Alex Brueckmann. Let me tell you a little bit about Alex and why you should hang around and stay tuned into today's show. So, Alex is an entrepreneur, he's an author, an executive coach, and on a board of an advisor and a board of directors for many other businesses. He's built, scaled, and exited companies across Europe, Canada, and he's also led client projects across the world. His areas of expertise are in strategy development, leadership development, and entrepreneurship. And he has a huge passion for helping customers build profitable businesses that are deep-seated and rooted in their purpose. So, with that being said, I said to Alex, hey, what I would love for you to be able to share with our audience today is like how to turn your purpose into profits. Because as the precursor to this, to today's show said, many people start out in business. We start out with a passion or like this burning desire to do some kind of good in the world. And unfortunately, for a lot of business owners, they start out that way. And even though they have a huge amount of passion and burning desire, they don't have the right kind of strategies to actually be able to implement them that turns them into a profitable, sustainable business that can survive and last the long term. Really, really important piece, because if you can't do that without, in a short space of time, you're going to end up feeling like, oh my God, this is a bit of a uphill battle, and all of a sudden that desire, that passion, and that burning sensation you had in your belly soon goes out. So I thought, you know what? I need to get the best of the best into the unlocked room, and we need to start unlocking the secrets as to how the heck do you put some strategy in place that helps you to turn your purpose into some real profits, but also do really good things in the world at the same time. So without further ado, I want to welcome Alex to the show. Fantastic to have you here, Alex, all the way from Canada. And we're looking forward to having this great conversation with you. And for you guys who are listening right now, if you're here and you want to comment and you want to participate in today's conversation, you guys know how this rolls. You've got to comment in the chat section underneath on Facebook, but you also need to let StreamYard allow us to see you, so we actually get those comments coming through here in the studio. Otherwise, you'll be chatting away and we'll have no idea that you're talking to us. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Alex.
Thank you very much for having me, Tracy. Good afternoon from Canada.
I know, seems a bit crazy, doesn't it, when I say good morning and you're like, yeah, good afternoon, and quite possibly even on the previous day.
Yes.
Let's you get to see into the future when you come on the Unlock Show. We're here in Australia in the future, right? So let's kind of start with your background, Alex. What exactly do you do, and why are you so damn passionate about helping people turn their passions, their ideas into profitable businesses? Why is that so important to you?
I think the short answer to that question, Tracy, is actually that I have wasted too many years in businesses myself as an employee, where I felt like just stuck in something that did not allow me to live my own purpose, where I actually felt the need to be a different person, to show up as in a different role, wearing a different hat than the one that fits me best. So I think I realized during my corporate career that the only thing that keeps me going is my desire to help other people. And then I just, at some point in time, realized I can combine this with my career in strategy development and strategy implementation. And that's when I basically left the corporate world, became a management consultant, and later a strategy entrepreneur. I still work for large corporations, so don't get me wrong, but this time not as an employee, but as someone who helps them avoid the mistakes that I've seen in the past when I was still an employee.
Well, that's enough to give you, the the push to want to go and do your own thing, particularly when you're sitting somewhere else and you're like, this just isn't aligning with me anymore. Like, what the heck is going on here? And those that make the leap and go, well, actually, I can do something about this. I applaud you for that. Let's kind of start with, like you mentioned just in that short introduction, that you were sitting in these jobs, and you saw so many things maybe not so right, and you felt the need to want to go out and help people kind of identify some of the things that were going wrong and give them the tools, the strategies, the information and knowledge to be able to move forward, but in a very strategic way. What are some of the things that you've actually seen? Like, what are the things that most entrepreneurs or business owners actually struggle with when it comes to strategy?
One of the first things that I very often hear when I talk to other entrepreneurs and smaller business owners is that they don't really grasp the concept of strategy. So what is it actually? What is strategy? We often hear strategies in plural, right? So we have a strategy for this and a strategy for that. And we often confuse strategy with tactics. Strategy is really a big picture plan for the next year, 2 years, maybe even 3 years. And most of the things we really talk about as strategies in our day-to-day, they are actually not strategies, they are tactics. And there's the first huge difference. We are really good at tactics, most of us, because that's what we do day in and day out. And what I mean is, for example, we're really good at selling. We are really good at approaching our clients, at lead identification. We are really good at marketing. But these things all play into a bigger picture, into our big business plan. And that is what strategy is all about. Strategy is about helping us identify the tactics that we need in order to reach the goals for our business that we want to reach in, let's say, 2 or 3 years down the road. Strategy is about the long-term planning. And very often smaller business owners be like, that's not for me. That's for those big corporate clients you have. They really need that, right? Yeah, but honestly, it's even more important for you as a small business owner, just because you are not within such a large organization does not mean you don't need that. It's actually the other way around, because you don't have any resources to waste. If you waste resources, you will never get to where you want to be. So therefore, the most valuable resource is our time as entrepreneurs and small business owners. And we really need to be intentional about how we invest this time. And that means we need to have a clear plan. That does not mean that this plan cannot change, but it needs to be in place to start out. Just from the outset, we need to know where to go. Otherwise, it's like just hopping into your car and be like, I drive around and see what I pick up on the way, right? That's not really what strategy is. Strategy is about knowing where you want to go and then finding the best way to that destination. And for entrepreneurs and small business owners, you could just say in one sentence, your strategy is a piece of collateral that you've written down that helps you make informed decisions when opportunities come your way. Otherwise, everything is an opportunity. Everything is a shiny object and everything takes time. And it just distracts you. And if you keep your head down long enough and just follow the trail of breadcrumbs that you find, the shiny objects that come your way, and you put your head up at one point in time and be like, ooh, where am I here? This is not really where I wanted to be. It's too late. It's just too late. You've wasted a year or two maybe. So you better check in regular intervals where you are, and a written down strategy helps you adjust the course. Always when you realize, I just left the trail.
Absolutely. Well, it's like that compass, right? If you're going to do a trek, you want to make sure you've got a compass and you've usually mapped everything out, your destination, before you even set out on the path. So that then you can be looking at this compass and saying, well, actually, I'm like 2 degrees off of where I need to be. And you can make some form of course correcting, tactical movement to get you back on track. So that's really important things. I think often, people will start their business, particularly if they're starting it out of a passion and a desire, or they've got they're really good at something and they start out that way. They don't often take the time to then step back and say, well, actually, even though the horse is bolted and I'm already on this path, I should just take a breath for a minute and actually take a moment to create some form of strategy, business plan, so that I at least can start to pre-plan where I'm going, rather than, as you say, driving the car and hoping like hell that you're going to get to your destination when you're just going round and round and round in circles. So the first thing I think it is important to understand is that the strategy comes before the tactics and not the other way around. There's definitely a hierarchy in this, right? So now that we've established that, what is strategy and why it is so, so darn important, what are some of the things that you've even seen, whether it's a small company, big company, a solopreneur, the mistakes that you've seen along the way in people trying to create a strategy? Because I know you've got this like 3-step process that you go through that really helps people to get very, very clear on what should actually be involved in the strategy. So let's talk about that, because I want people to walk away from today's show knowing, all right, now I know what strategy is, and I know exactly what the 3 key things are that I must I must think about and cater for in my strategy, in my plan.
Let's talk about those 3 steps. And as we go through those 3 steps, I will highlight some of the mistakes that I sometimes see that
Awesome.
I would love people to avoid, because it just goes down the wrong path for them then. So those 3 steps are actually fairly simple. Step number 1 is to write down your vision, which is the state of the business that you would like to see in some years down the road. Maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. It actually depends on the maturity of your business. So the big corporate clients that I work with, they typically write down 5-year strategies. So that's probably a bit too much for a smaller business owner. So if you go 2 years, you should be fine there. And what we then do is we write down this strategy in a way that it helps us see and feel how the business should look like, let's say in 2 years. It's nothing that follows, let's say, sentence number 1 is this, sentence number 2 is that, and then there's a third sentence. It just doesn't work like that. Every business is different. Every business starts out with from a different starting point. So if you sit down and write down how you envision your business to look like, and you think stakeholders, right? You think, what do I want my clients to say? If I ask them in 2 years down the road, what would they say about my business? If I asked the people I work with, maybe I even have some employees, what would they say? Where do I want to be active? What are my target clients? What's the revenue I want to make? Maybe even split up by service or product categories. It heavily depends on what your business is, right? So you really describe your business in detail. This can be a whole page of text written down. So that is a vision. You envision your business, where you want to go. Some of the mistakes that I see in this step is that people just write down a weird pipe dream, right? So they write stuff down that is just not realistic. And a good vision statement needs to balance various pairs, actually 3 pairs of let's say balanced pairs that describe or characterize a vision. You can be bold and aspirational, and you should. And at the same time, you need to think about, with everything I know, is that achievable to some degree, at least, right? So there's no use in writing something down. If I wrote down a vision for my business and would be like, in 3 years, I'm bigger than McKinsey, you immediately know that something is off, right? That is not motivating. That is actually demotivating. So a vision needs to be motivating once you see that. You want to be like, that is cool. I want to be part of that. This is what I really want to achieve. And this is also important for your employees. If they see this, they want to be like, yes, awesome. That's exactly the right thing for us. I want to build this. I want to help create this world. So aiming too high, aiming too low are mistakes that I see in this context, and just not being specific enough, being too fluffy. Because I get it. I have my own strategy. I get how difficult it is to write it down, because in the end, when you wrote it down, you need to hold yourself accountable for it. And that's something
Yeah.
people not necessarily like. And especially
Mm-hmm.
if you hold yourself to account, this is something, that makes it sometimes difficult for us to really be specific and intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
I want to just on that note, Alex, I want to talk a little bit about a situation I had, and this is because it really does play into that whole creating your vision or envisaging where you're going to go. And I'm actually going to go back to my time in my previous life as I worked in the finance industry, and at the time I was a recruited to be a bank manager of a particular branch. And I can recall writing a business plan with a vision statement in it. And funnily enough, way back then, I wasn't as business savvy as I am now and understanding all of this. But what I did is I sat down and did what you've just said. Like I just envisaged in 3 years' time or in a year's time, with this branch that I have, what do I want my team to be saying? How do I want to feel about this business? What do I want even my local media to be saying? What do I want my customers to be saying? And I can actually remember, and this strategy that I'm going to give you now, or tactic, let's call it, it might be really useful, particularly for those who are a bit creative when it comes from an entrepreneurial perspective, because if you're a creative, a lot of them don't like sitting down and actually writing the traditional business plan. But I kind of took the concept of the vision board and turned that into a picture base of what I wanted my business to look like. So I essentially cut out images out of magazines, out of books. I would appear in this magazine. I'd be nominated for this. I'd be like, it made it very, very real, and put that into my business plan in imagery. And funnily enough, within the year of managing that branch, which I was recruited for because it was at the bottom of the barrel, it went to number one in the region, and it was outperforming many other branches elsewhere, which then led me to being nominated to go to a high achievers conference, which 1% of the company at the time got to go to. So, and I put that down to that activity that I did, because it set the compass, it set the plan, and I knew where we were going. Now, what I would also say about that is, a lot of people, and maybe we're going to get to this too, Alex, is like, now I've got that strategy plan, most people put it into, put them into the bottom drawer. So we'll get to that in a minute. But I'm going to tell you that even though I did that, so in that time where I had created this business plan, I'd created this imagery, I did what I was supposed to do, because I was actually asked to do that, asked to complete that by management, bundled it up, put it in the drawer. 8 months later, when I opened that plan up again, I was flabbergasted to like open it up and go, oh my God, I have done that and that and that and that and that, and just started ticking all of these off. And I couldn't believe that I had actually achieved all of the things I had, even though I bundled that book up and I put it in the bottom drawer. So I just wanted to tell that, because that is a classic example of what you're talking about. And it's that starting with that vision and envisaging where you want to go. When you do that, it is like setting the magnetic compass that will now almost like pull you toward where you want to go. Without that, you're kind of left to your own devices, going all over the shop. So I hope that added to your point about being very, very clear about your vision and envisaging where you're going to go.
That was a wonderful example, very practical. And I think everyone who listens can imagine how important it is to write down the things that you want to achieve in order to actually have them front and center. And even if your vision disappears afterwards in a drawer, you've written it down. It's in there. It's there. You have crystallized your thinking by writing it down, and therefore you are clearer than ever on what you want to achieve.
Beautiful.
Now let's move on to the next step. Once you've written down that vision, oh, by the way, before I get there, we will definitely talk about this later on, where you find all those resources. There's a free article on my website that mentions those 3 balanced pairs and how to actually use them in order to write a great vision statement for your business. We will tell you later where to find it. So let's move on to the second step. Once you've written down that vision, you need to know, how can I actually measure that I'm moving closer to that vision? This is especially important if we're talking about a time frame of 2 or 3 years or even longer. So you're not just going to put it into the drawer and then pull it out 3 years later and magically you will have achieved your vision. This is just not how it works, right? So you need to understand what the key elements in your vision are that you then break down into measurable, let's say, key performance indicators or success indicators. And here we're really looking for maybe 6, 7, 8 success indicators that you should regularly track. And some of them you track anyway, right? For example, your revenue per client category, those things. You really need a dashboard of strategic performance indicators that tell you whether you are moving closer to that vision. So what you do, what you basically hold in your hand when you've done that is, you know where you want to be and you know how you can track that you're moving into the right direction. And this is super interesting because now you can ask yourself in the third step, what actually will move the needle? What is it that I need to do in order to move the needle on those performance indicators? So even if your vision is fluffy and very emotional and super descriptive rather than rational, it's no problem at all because you actually attached a success indicator to the key elements. And now everything you do will help you move the needle. So before we actually talk about what you then do to move the needle, let's quickly talk about some of the mistakes that typically happen in that space when people derive their success indicators from their vision statement. I think the number one mistake is that people overwhelm themselves with too many indicators. They are called indicators. They are not called proof, right? So these are indicators. Keep it in, let's say, in a manageable way. You need to understand we're not looking at a spaceship control panel here. We are looking at a dashboard, like in your car, where you see maybe 6, 7, 8 important indicators that are telling you that everything is just going fine, right? Another mistake that I see in this context very often is that people would just rationalize the hell out of their vision. They realize, and deep down they know that this does not make sense, and still they be like, yeah, it works. We're going to take this piece and then we're going to invent this index out of those 3 success indicators, and it just gets super complex and super complicated. And it's like everywhere in life, if things don't feel natural, if they don't come natural anymore, if they feel forced, you just abandon them. You just don't follow through on them. So in that context, it's really important to stay sharp, to pick the most relevant ones, and not to overload yourself. You don't want to spend 2 days a month just by tracking indicators. You don't have the time for that, right? So let's talk about how you then move the needle in your third step. So you have this 2 hands full of success indicators that you now want to use in order to track that you're moving towards your vision. That's how you designed it. So in order to move the needle on those indicators, you want to pick what we call strategic work streams, or you can call them pillar project, however you want to call them. It really doesn't matter. That's just terminology. It's important that we understand that from now on, what we will do is focus our time on moving the needle on those success factors, because that's what takes us to the vision. That's where we want to be. So first of all, what you do a full project inventory. You take a look at what you do every day, from social media to God knows what. And you ask yourself, does that still make sense, given that these are the success indicators that I want to move in order to reach my vision? And if your answer is, I don't know, you park them. If your answer is definitely not, you kill them, you stop them. You don't do those things anymore. You throw them out of the window because you know you're not moving the needle with those things. They just burn your time and money. So stop doing them. And then you ask yourself, okay, what's left? Those things that really that you're doing now, and you will be doing some of those things already that will move the needle. So we're not talking about reinventing the wheel completely. We are talking about full focus and concentration on what is actually adding value already today, and where does it fit into my 3 to 4 to maximum 5 buckets, strategic pillar projects, those 5 buckets or 3 buckets that you can focus on at one point in time, right? If you're a solopreneur, you probably can't go with more than 3. If you are a small company with some employees, you can just split up the responsibilities. You might be able to drive 4 or 5 at the same time, but definitely not more. What are those pillar projects? So very often, one of those is your entire marketing approach. And when I use the word marketing, I don't mean advertising. I don't mean social media marketing. I mean marketing in the broader sense. This includes your go-to-market. It includes how you qualify leads. It includes how you sell, which sales channels you use, et cetera, et cetera. So it's the entire bucket of how do I frame what I sell? How do I position it in the market? How do I price it? All those elements are in there. So traditional marketing. Now, sales is a huge part of that, right? So sales and marketing is very often one pillar. Another bucket that we often see, and this heavily depends on what type of business you run, is often something around operational excellence. And that means, how can I do what I do in a more efficient way? Now, and here comes the first big mistake. Very often, strategies that I take a look at, they are not actual strategies. They are just operational excellence programs. Everything that I see in those buckets is just, we do the same as we've always done, but now we do them really good, right? That's not strategy. That's just not strategy. That's just being more efficient. And that brings me to the next topic. If you think about what other strategic pillars you might need, there need to be pillars in this strategy that you are not working on today. There needs to be something new in it. Otherwise, your strategy is just not a strategy. It's an operational excellence plan. So when we're talking about good strategies, we really need to ask ourselves, what is the magic ingredient in that strategy? Why is that worth the paper it is written on? What will it help me achieve if I'm successful? It needs to be something that sparks your fire. It's something that something that touches your soul, your inner being, something that is more than just a rational description of a sales process, a social media marketing campaign, or God knows what, right? So, and this is where the topic of purpose and impact comes into play. So if you're an entrepreneur, a small business owner, most likely passion brought you where you are now. It was your passion that told you, I want to start a business. So it's not a desire to earn more money. Maybe that plays a part in the back of your head, that you can reach a status of financial independence at some point in time would be awesome, right? But that's a nice add-on. That's not the reason why you went into business in the first place, most likely. So you went into business to do something that you burn for, that you have a strong desire for. And that can be very closely connected to your business. So this is just a made-up example. Let's assume you have a bake shop. If you are not passionate about baking, you probably won't be around for a long time, because people will just taste whether you are in it with everything, with every fiber of your being or not, right? So that's the passion that drove you there. Now the question is that also your purpose? What is the purpose of your business? And that is something many people really don't get. Purpose is not necessarily connected to your business. Purpose is what you want to contribute to help solve a problem that this planet has, that society has, something that is just not necessarily related to your business. My favorite example for that is the American apparel company Patagonia. Everyone knows that they are super passionate about the environment. They produce outdoor clothing, right? So they are not an environmental protection agency. And still, for decades, they've pledged 1% of their sales to environmental protection campaigns. And it doesn't stop there. They actually link environmentalists, people that want to get involved, activists, or people like you and me that want to become involved. They link them to environmental protection campaigns that are out there. So they even play this role to bring people together in order to help them live their purpose. And this is what we want to see in a good strategy. We want to see how this strategy helps you live your purpose. And here is the thing. Purpose is just an intent. You can write the nicest purpose statement on your website. As long as you don't achieve the impact that you want to achieve, it's a hollow phrase. So everyone is talking about purpose, or many people have been talking about purpose for a decade. Purpose is just the first step. It's an intent. As long as you don't achieve the impact that you want to achieve, it's just empty words. So when you take a look at those priorities that we talked about, right? So the priorities that you want to focus your time on and your money on, that hopefully move the needle on accelerating your business towards your vision, we need to see this purpose. We need to see how your purpose connects to the strategy. Because then all of a sudden, your strategy is not just about profit maximization. All of a sudden, your strategy has this magic ingredient that keeps you going even when times get tough. And times will get tough. I promise you that. And if you're a business owner and you have not experienced this yet, it will come.
It's coming.
Yeah, definitely. So those are the 3 steps, basically, and some mistakes that happen on the way when you design strategies. It's actually not very complicated. Most of the time, people just don't have this muscle trained. They don't know how to do it. They don't have a system in place or a process that they can follow. And that's some of the things that you can find in the free resources section of my website. There's actually enough there that can help you just get going.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to make sure that I give you a link so that the things that Alex has spoken about today, that you can actually go and get your hands on. And I'm glad that he talks about like exercising this muscle, right? It's like the system and a process. And once you learn it and you do it over and over and over again, it's like going to the gym, you exercise your arms, and your arms are going to get muscly. That's what we want to do with this. So there's some of the things that I really have taken away from what you've just said in explaining, what is strategy, explaining, those 3, the pillars, and then the 3 components that make up a really good strategy. The thing that I love about this is that you said, with everything that I know, is this actually possible? And I love that you're questioning, like throughout everything you've said already today. It's like those moments of just pause, stop, and ask yourself these questions, because they will help you to determine whether or not you're on the right track. Are the things that the strategies that you are creating for your business, are they actually in alignment, and are they going to propel you forward? And if you stop and you say, with everything that I know, with this vision, is this actually possible? Like Alex said, it's going to give you that motivation, the excitement that goes with it, to say, actually, what I'm looking at here and what I've created with my vision, man, that's possible. That's totally possible. I could do that. So you're then more likely to get on and get it done, rather than, we want to have big, hairy, audacious goals. We do want to do that, but not so big that they become like, that's just a pipe dream. I can't do that. So we want to make them very specific and achievable. A little out of reach, that you've got to stretch yourself because you want to use that muscle, but they want to be achievable. The other thing that I loved, again, these questions that I'm hearing him ask himself, but also as he would be consulting and working with other businesses, there's these little kind of pit stops that I'm hearing he has, which are like, just stop for a minute, ask yourself this question now. Does this still make sense? So in the capacity, or in the scenario that you are building out your strategy and you're even reviewing your strategy, you've got to, should I stop doing this? Should I actually continue doing this particular activity? Or is there something else that I need to add to the mix and I need to start doing? And the question you're asking yourself at that point is, does this actually still make sense? Does it still make sense? And is it still the thing that is helping propel my business forward to achieve the vision, the purpose, and create the impact that I set out to create. And then the other thing I've got here is, and I'm trying to read my very messy scribble here on my piece of paper, but has it created the magic? What is the magic here? So have I created something that is magical, that makes me want to get up in the morning and continue doing what I'm doing? Because as Alex alluded to, if you don't have these things and you're not connecting all of this together, very soon that passion, that desire, that fire in our belly that you started out in business having, all of a sudden the fire has become a pile of ashes. It's stone cold. You're trying to reignite it in any way you possibly can and getting very frustrated and disillusioned with what's going on. So really, really important that you take the time to do these things right at the get-go. But also, now let's talk about how often should we be reviewing this, Alex? So once we've set we've set our strategy, we know where we're going. We're quite specific about the activities we're going to do. We've got some measurements around them. How frequently should we actually be doing this? Stop, taking it in, checking and measuring and taking a bit of a temperature on how well are we actually going?
We're actually talking about 3 to 4 times a year, depending on the size of your business. So large organizations typically do this like once or twice a year, just because it takes very, very long to get the full overview of all the projects that are going on. Smaller organizations, we are just faster. As entrepreneurs and small business owners, we can do this just in a few hours maybe. So I personally do this for my business regularly, kind of on the fly, every now and then, and I stop, look and check properly every 3 to 4 months. And it really helps me understand whether I'm still moving in the right direction, especially when there's no one else in a company. When you're a solopreneur or really a small business, you as the owner, it's your responsibility. You are responsible for strategy, no one else. If you are the executive in a large organization, there is the board of directors nudging you all the time, right? There is someone that will make sure that you do the strategic work, that you check on your strategy, that you review it. If you're a small business owner, you most likely don't have a board of directors that nudges you. So it's your responsibility. You need to lock that into your calendars and really make sure that you don't forget it, because otherwise you're busy like everyone, right? We are all busy. There's more work than we can handle in a day. If we don't intentionally make time for that, the tyranny of the urgent will just take over, and we just dig ourselves so deep into the ground that it's hard to get out with all the work and all the busy stuff that's going on.
Absolutely. When you're doing this, Alex, I know, in your experience, you work with solopreneur right the way through to large corporate executives. How, let's say we're talking to, smaller businesses. Maybe you've got a couple of employees or potentially up to, say, 10 employees. How involved should you have your team in developing the strategy and reviewing it on the regular? Like, let's talk a little bit about what that looks like and what makes for, what are some of the best practices for team involvement when it comes to strategy?
That's a great question, Tracy. There is a very clear rule that I like everyone to follow. Don't work on this alone. It really doesn't make sense. Those times are over where the business owner had all the knowledge and had all the best ideas, right? So those times are over. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of intelligent people in your organization that carry knowledge that you don't. So involve them. Ask them for their opinion, especially when they're client facing. They hear and see a lot more than you probably do. It's just the way it is. If we leverage the knowledge in an organization, we can't do this just by asking the top dogs. We really need to ask everyone. And if you decide to move to a different place, you probably just don't take the decision and tell your 3 kids and your wife, right? This is not what you do. You hopefully involve them in the decision. And in business, this is the same. And there's a reason for that. The moment you involve people, the moment you ask them to be part of the creation process, they own it. They own a part of this. And people love to see a world come to life that they helped create. So if you involve them, it's just way more likely that you will be successful with your people.
Well, I want to go here and just make this point now. Like you know, in the big corporate, we would talk about that as getting buy-in. You know, you're getting buy-in from your stakeholders, from your team. They're on the journey. They're brought into it, and they're more involved. In this current climate, right? We're in a situation where there's almost this on the outside divide and conquer, right? Divide and conquer. What we know to be true is that you can go long and far when you unite, when you bring people together and you're able to work on something together, as in this case, with a team of people. They know and understand. I mean, so, you know, again, you're envisaging, you're sharing all of this vision that you have, and you probably even got your team to participate in the creation of the vision and the strategy right from the get-go, again, like Alex says, so that they are absolutely involved and they feel heard, they feel important, they feel valued, that their opinion actually matters. And not only that, that you've now got the opportunity to be able to, you know, put your ear to the ground and hear what your team is actually hearing. Because as the CEO, quite often you're not always the person who's on the front line talking with customers, seeing what's going on. And secondly, you've then also got, you know, a whole bunch of people that have got differing opinions, maybe different ideas. Maybe they've researched some new thing that maybe you haven't had the opportunity to be able to see yet. So bringing them together, asking for their opinion, uniting them, uniting your entire team towards that one goal. You know, you're going to be able to get there a heck of a lot quicker. So I'm always in favor of doing that sort of thing. So in terms of like reviewing the strategy, and this is just my experience, my opinion, I've always found, like Alex has, that it works best when you review it. We have quarterly, so 90 days. So we cut our strategic plan into 90-day, sprints. Let's call them that. 90-day sprints where we know and understand what it is that we're working on for those particular pillar projects for that 90-day period, along with the measurements and the strategies and tactics that go with, and then we review them on a regular 90-day basis. Aside from the 90 days, let's kind of bring this down now to in the moment, in the day. So every day we wake up, how do we ensure, and we go to work, how do we ensure that the activities and the things that we are doing are in a total alignment with our strategy and the direction that we want to go? How do we keep our team on track with that? What's kind of the rhythm and the routine that you would recommend people do?
Two things come together at this point in time. First, we already stopped everything that we saw that does not contribute to reaching our vision, right? So we get rid of this stuff immediately. That frees up time usually. So people will have more time, which they will need because we are doing new things. So new things come with new processes, new ways of working, and we need to make sure that we have time to focus on those different things that we want to do. You need to help your people understand, first of all, what their role is in implementing the strategy. This is a leadership responsibility. You need to communicate with them. And the earlier you involve them, the easier it will be for them to understand it. So we're not talking a top-down communication. You as the company owner tell them what to do. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a two-way dialogue up and down the chain, so that everyone understands their role, what they do on a daily basis helps propel the business forward to your vision, right? So that's the first thing that needs to happen. And the second thing is, since you are doing things differently than you did them before, you need to help your people acquire the skills that they need in order to do those things. So if you just like, I'm pretty hands-off, I kind of give my people the direction and the rest, they do this, right? So I'm not really involved in the day-to-day. You can try. The moment you really have a good strategy in place, something that will help you make the leap, it means that you, as a company owner, and everyone in the organization most likely, need to learn new capabilities. We need to build new capabilities in order to implement that strategy. If your current skill set is enough to work on your strategy and to implement it, that should be the red flag for you, because it tells you that your strategy, again, is just an operational excellence plan and not a real strategy. And this is super, super important for you as a business owner to understand. You need to learn new skills to make this happen. If it does not require you to learn new skills, you probably did not reach out far enough.
And I think that is a really really important point that you make there, and it's like, this is the difference between you being progressive and innovative with your company, and you need to be. If you're not being progressive, if you are not increasing your level of skill set, if you're not enabling your team to do the same, like you say, if you've got everything you need right now to be able to do what you need to do to get you to your end goal, then to me that's kind of like a red flag. Either my goal is not big enough because I'm not actually going to be stretching us far enough, or secondly, that we're just not thinking about how do we upskill, how do we continue to be progressive, and how do we continue to innovate what we're doing. And what will happen is that you're going to become stale really, really quickly. Not just stale in the business, but you'll probably become stale in your market, because those others that are doing this, becoming progressive, having that the mindset and the overarching you know vision of being innovative, they are going to out innovate and outplay you. So you must adopt this sooner rather than later. And I think those are some great things that you've spoken about today, Alex, that really get you to stop and think, am I a progressive? Am I being progressive? Am I being innovative? Am I actually stretching us far enough? With everything that I know, is what I'm trying to achieve, is it actually possible? So all of these things make it very realistic, give you very specific things that you can do, but also continue to fuel the fire within with all the good things that help build that momentum and keep the furnace hot, rather than stifling it and putting it out and you wondering, what the heck did I do, and trying to run back to some element of security of a 9-to-5 job, which, as we know now, just doesn't really exist.
I mean, this episode is called Turning Purpose into Profit, right? So if you take everything that we've just talked about and you ask yourself, how does that help me to turn my purpose into profit? If you have this magic ingredient that we talked about somewhere, this spark, this big goal, and you don't know how to get there, how to make money from that, right? How do you monetize your purpose? If you are asking yourself that question right now, you are at the right spot. If you have not reached that point yet, think again. If you want to build a business that addresses an issue out there in the world that is worth solving, worth contributing to, right? I'm not asking you to solve world famine. I'm not asking you to end the environmental crisis. I'm really not asking you to just be the David that takes on the Goliath, right? Or the Goliath. If you want to ask yourself, what can I contribute to a purpose worthwhile contributing to? And how can I build a business around that? You are on the right track. There are countless examples of companies that took a problem that's out there in the world and built a business case around it. And they did not do this in order to make profit. They did it because it was the right thing to do. And on the way, they figured how they can monetize it. Typically, these are things that larger corporations do or startups do. Larger corporations because they have the manpower and the resources to rethink, and startups because that is exactly the passion that I'm talking about, that brings entrepreneurs into business. So if you are a business and asking yourself right now, how on earth is what I am doing connected to some of those really big problems in this world? I give you my example. I am a business consultant. How on earth does that help, right? There are enough business consultants. But the way I can contribute to making this world a better place is that I can consult environmental protection agencies on their own strategies for free without charging them. So this is one of the ways that I'm trying to live my purpose with an impact. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a medical doctor in order to help cure incurable diseases. You can do whatever stands in your power as a company to support those causes that you believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what I'm talking about, first of all. If you are then able to even build a business case around those things, you hit the bullseye. You are actually doing well while also doing good, which is the ultimate definition of a sustainable business.
Mm-hmm. And I love that, because let me just put me back up. I love that, because then if you can, like, it's this, say, the ripple effect. Like you're talking about, if I can't figure out how can I be the front line, so the medical doctor, I can still contribute to that cause if that's what you're passionate about. If you're passionate about, helping cure cancer, for example, but you don't have the skill set to cure cancer because you're not, you don't have that medical background. But what you can do is figure out, well, what is it that I do that can support that industry, whether that be that you donate to it, whether it be that you provide a service to that particular industry. So I love the way that you have made that very, very clear, that you can find your passion, you can find an impact that you want to make in any field or industry you desire. And then it's just a matter of figuring out, well, how does what I do play into that space? And how can I, somewhere along the line, make the impact that I need to make? Alex, I kind of want to, before we wrap up today's session, I want to talk about, we're in, you've got to be a little bit careful about how you kind of position this, but right now the world is in a world of hurt. All right, we've got a whole lot of stuff going on. People are uncertain about things. What is a piece of advice that you would like to leave our viewers with today? And it doesn't matter whether they are a business owner in a corporate, they're in the big business, small business, or even an employee. What is a piece of advice that you would want to share with somebody that is, maybe they've got a passion about something right now and they don't know what to do or where to go? What's a piece of advice that you would like to leave them with today?
I struggled for about a decade to find my sweet spot, where I understood that is what I can do to contribute, to make the world a better place. This is how I can create a real impact and turn my purpose into a business at the same time that provides for my family. It took me a long time to figure that out. And I really needed to learn to sit with this uncomfortable feeling that I am not yet where I want to be. The moment I embraced this and the moment I allowed myself to be uncomfortable with it, the moment I opened up and invited ideas, and I became much more open to see different ways of running a business and than I saw before. So I think the only advice that I can give you based on my own experience is, don't get frustrated if this episode leaves you with more questions than answers when it comes to how to turn purpose into profit. If you learn to sit with it and just to think about it from different perspectives, it will come to you. The most important thing is that you understand that purpose and impact come first, money comes second. If you approach business from that perspective, you will always build a business for the longer term, because it helps to solve a real problem out there.
Thank you so much for your words of wisdom with that, and I couldn't agree more. Now, I know you've got a whole heap of things planned. You've got a bunch of stuff in the pipeline. So let's tell everybody what you've got coming up. I know you've got a bunch of books, you've got some programs, and a heap of other things that are clearly in your strategic plan and in one of your pillars. So let's tell everybody what you've got going on and how they can get more of Alex if they so wish to follow you.
So thank you for giving me that opportunity, Tracy. So first of all, there will be a pretty cool summit coming up in November this year, 2021, where we'll talk about exactly those things: how to run a purposeful business, how to build a purpose-driven business, impact-driven business for profit, and what that means for you as a person, how you can approach it, how you can do it. So this is a 3-day summit with like 30 plus speakers. It will happen, of course, virtually. If you want to join, be my guest. It's totally free. Ideally, you just sign up for my newsletter on my website to get news on the summit. You will then also get news on the next big thing coming up, which will launch early 2022. I'm actually building a so-called masterclass, an online course over 8 weeks that helps small and medium-sized companies to actually do it, to actually build a business, to actually create a strategy around your core purpose for impact and for profit. So where does all this content come from? It comes from my new book. My new book will come out early next year as well. There will be most likely 2 more books coming out next year based on those, based on the work that I do. It's just a lot of things going on. Just go to my website, sign up for the newsletter, and you will always have free resources, checklists, toolkits, articles, all in your inbox. It's all for free.
All right, guys. Well, you're probably wondering what is the website that you need to go to. It's www.alexthestrategist.com. So head on over there, alexthestrategist.com, and you'll be able to sign up to Alex's newsletter and then just keep up to date with what he's got going on. And I know his new book, I think, if I've got this right, it's called The 9 Elements of Organizational Identity. It'll be coming out soon. You guys will also be able to get yourself a copy of the book when he launches that. And as you know, I'm always excited when people tell me that they are launching programs and books, because that's right up my alley. That's what I do, as I help people create those 2 things, as well as help them create amazing shows, hopefully that you find just like this, the Unlock Show. So I want to say thank you so much for your time today, Alex, your wisdom, your experience, and just being so open to sharing what you know to help people create really winning strategies, because that is what we need right now to be able to make this world a better place. So thank you very much for being here and sharing that so willingly.
And I have to give this back. This is only possible because of people like you, because you open those channels and have those podcasts and those shows. Thank you so much for all the great content, Tracy.
You're welcome. Well, hey guys, thank you very much for joining us today. As you know, I'll be back again with another episode of the Unlock Show. At the moment, we're running Wednesdays only. In October, we'll be back to 2 days a week, which will be Wednesday and Friday. But for now, I will see you again with another episode of the Unlock Show, Wednesday, Australian Brisbane time, 10 a.m. And I'll have another amazing guest with me next week. So thank you very much. Stay safe, everybody. And I'll see you again on another episode of Unlocked. I'm Tracy Wilson. It's been my pleasure. Bye, guys.